Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brandon Faulkner. I'm here talking with Yasmin Shah, founder and president of Village Core, also the author of A Caregiver's Journey, a book that we will be talking about today, about Yasmin's life and her experience about taking care of her parents and what her experience was. We'll have time at the end for about 5 minutes of Q&A. So if you think of anything, please feel free on the tab to click on the tab that says Q&A and type them out so Yasmin can respond at the end. Good afternoon, Yasmin. I'm so happy to be with you today. I noticed that your introduction says, inspired by personal experience to create an organization dedicated to providing dignified and compassionate care and resources to seniors. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So Village Core is an organization that I dreamed of many years ago, and actually around 2013, after working with seniors and serving seniors on a nonprofit board. Starting in 2007, I got involved with a group of seniors that were trying to create a village that would help them support each other while they aged in their own homes. They did not want to move into a retirement community. They wanted to live in their own homes. I thought that concept was wonderful, and especially since I was immigrating my parents to the United States, I was hoping that they would end up in a situation where they would have loving neighbors around that could support them as they aged, because that's something they had in spades living in Pakistan. So I fell in love with that idea, helped Tierra Santa, the community of Tierra Santa, launch their village. And it was a really thriving village. We had over 200 members, paid full-time executive director and part-time staff that were all taking care of each other, and was going really well. And there were many other cities in and around San Diego that were coming to us and saying, hey, how did you do this? Can you help us recreate a village in our own communities? And that was the genesis and the reason I helped form Village Core. It was supposed to be an organization that helped different communities start their own villages, and that's where the name comes from. But over the years, trying to help these other communities launch villages, it turned out to be a lot more challenging than we initially thought it would be. Yeah. And then I got involved in some other things, and just recently have decided to resurrect Village Core with the mission of helping seniors and their caregivers plan and execute the plan to help have a vibrant stage of life, rather than be a senior staying at home, feeling bored, getting lonely, not having passion. We're trying to tackle all of those issues with the relaunch of Village Core.
Very interesting. Wow, that sounds amazing. Let's talk about your book a little bit. What are the most pressing issues for seniors today?
Okay, so today, I mean, I think the challenge is that there are a lot more people aging, baby boomers. The second is people are having smaller families, and your siblings and your kids might not be in the same city that you live in. And we are also living longer. So it's like a perfect storm where, you used to have combined families living close by to each other, and people around you to help you as you aged, and now it's not the same. So that, I think, is a huge problem as people age. And And the reason I wrote the book, actually, since you mentioned my book, is because I went through some really challenging times with my own parents. And as I said earlier, I immigrated them to the United States. My dad passed 3 years after he came to this country, and my mom passed 2 years later. And I went through them living with us at home, assisted living, nursing homes, ending up in the hospital, and so on and so forth. And it was really challenging times. And during those times, I continued to serve on several nonprofit boards that were around aging. So not only did I have my own stories and my own challenges that I could use as inspiration, but I had certainly heard a lot of other stories from different people that I'd come across, including a lot of friends, that I wanted to share as something that people could use, could find useful, not just for inspiration, but actually for helpful advice. And that's why I wrote the book. I initially wrote it as a nonfiction, and then I shared it with a few people, and they said, no, it's really difficult to read. It's so dry. And so I tried to take a stab at making it a fiction. And some people suggested maybe you should write it as a memoir. And I was like, okay, well, that's going to make it really challenging, because I don't want people to know I'm talking about them.
Yeah.
because if they do, I'm going to get in trouble. So the way I see it is, if you see yourself in the book, you see yourself in the book. I am not talking about you. So the stories are all jumbled up,
Yeah.
and hopefully the readers will find it useful and inspirational as they read the book.
Interesting. And you mentioned that you yourself went through some challenges taking care of your own parents, and that you saw other people around you having challenges taking care of their families and trying to figure out that route of how to take care of them. What are some common challenges or issues that seniors face when it comes to accessing information that, a nonprofit like Village Core is trying to give out to everybody?
Okay, that's a really good question, Brandon. Thank you for asking. I think I'll give you a small example to illustrate the point. My mom, who was the second one to pass, she did not want her life prolonged. And someone along the way had mentioned you should have pulsed. And I was like, okay, what's a pulsed? Do you know what a pulsed is? No. so it's actually called it's a physician's order of life-sustaining treatment, and one must have that in place if you don't want your life prolonged right at the end. So here's how it came useful for me with my mom, and it was a really tough situation. My mom, the day actually that she passed, we were moving her into a nursing home, and she was not breathing very well. And when the ambulance came to pick her up, she had extremely shallow breathing. And we had, as they were loading, as they were getting her into the ambulance, they told me that they were going to put her on oxygen and start to make her breathe better. And I knew that that's not what she wanted. But if she didn't have this pulse form, the paramedics would have had to, by law, give her oxygen and treat her so that she could be able to breathe. But since she didn't have the pulse form, they were able to just take her in the ambulance and not do those type of treatments to prolong her life. And it would have been a very, very hard discussion for me to have. I was feeling emotional to begin with, but it would have been a very hard discussion for me to tell the paramedics not to put her on oxygen. It's a hard thing for a child to say, deprive my parent of oxygen. It's gut wrenching, but that's what her wishes were. She wanted, it was enough was enough for her. And it was documented, and it was as form of physician order. And all I had to do was give that form to the paramedic, and they did. They did just that. And in fact, I followed them. The place they were taking her to was about 3 miles from my home. And halfway through the journey, I could see a little bit of a commotion in the ambulance, because I was driving right behind the ambulance. And there was a window, so I could see through what was going on inside. And I know the exact moment that she passed. There are many such other things that one can't think of, and one can't prepare unless you've actually been through it or talked to someone who's been through it. Including other things like, taking the independence. I know when I told my dad he couldn't drive anymore, that was one of the most difficult conversations I had with my dad in my entire life. And he told me, and those words still haunt me, is, I don't feel like a man, not being able to drive. And you hear things from your parents that you never think you will have to, and it's hard to prepare. So having an organization like Village Core that you can lean upon to help you prepare, not just for yourself, but also what you're about to experience with your parents, can be really, really useful, and not have you feel lonely or insane, or feel really depressed when your dad is saying to you, you're taking his manhood away, and you're telling your paramedics not to give your mom oxygen. I mean, it's hard to prepare for those things. And if you're not prepared, it's really, really shocking. So we are hoping that those type of things people will get out of participating with Village Core, along with the fact that we're going to be bringing speakers about innovation that's going on in aging, bringing opportunities for people to lead passionate lives by getting involved and participating in things that they're interested in. So we have a lot of plans for things coming up. So please stay tuned and see where Village Core takes you.
Yes. And of course, with your own experience, things were hard, and it was, hard having to have these conversations and stuff. How does Village Core exactly get that information out to everybody, and to make sure that, they can have these conversations with people like you who've had these experiences in order to get the best information possible?
Yeah, so we are starting an events series, and if you go to the events page, we will be posting a lot more events there, as well as we are working on a plan that is going to be a template, and we'll roll it out with a number of different, with kind of like a seminar series where you can listen to a particular topic, have a template that you can fill out for yourself. So that's one way that they can get engaged with it, as well as we'll be doing products and books that highlighting those in our shopping page, so you can go ahead and buy stuff that's been curated for you. So there's going to be opportunities for you to get volunteer and get involved. So I'm excited.
That's great. That's amazing. And going back to your book, you mentioned that your book is a combination of a bunch of different stories, not just from yourself, but from other people's perspectives of their families. Was it hard trying to, piece together this book and trying to make sure that, nobody's information gets out there too publicly, and like trying to, was it hard listening to these stories and that sort of thing?
Yeah, it was really hard. So yeah, when I went from nonfiction to fiction, that was quite an adjustment, because I actually, frankly, I probably have a version, or maybe I deleted it, so where I actually had real names. So because I wrote down stories, and then I had to kind of just go back and jumble it so that, okay, I'm not taking anyone's names. And I came up with characters, and based on some of the people I knew or heard about. And then I mixed and matched the stories to characters that didn't have those stories. So there was a lot of juggling that I did, and the names certainly aren't any real names. They were fabricated. The reason I use Rosie as the main character of the book is because Rosie was my best friend. She died at the age of 20, and I still miss her to this date. And as I was thinking about the name for a synonym for me, I was like, okay, well, what can I call myself? And Rosie jumped out.
Yeah.
But certainly a lot of experiences that I've attributed to Rosie aren't the experiences Rosie had.
Yeah.
And also the other main character in the book, Lisa, her stories are also jumbled up. So yes, yes, it was both difficult and fun jumbling up those stories.
And what was it like kind of reliving those memories, creating the book? Was it hard for you to go through that again and, try to process everything again with your stories and with the stories that you've heard?
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking that, because it was a labor. It was a labor of love, because my parents. The one thing, if I had to describe my parents in one word, it would be giving. They gave of themselves in so many unique ways, and to me, it was kind of honoring them by sharing their experiences, so that their tough times could inspire other people for a long time to come. So to that end, the first version of it I wrote with that in mind, like I'm, helping my parents' legacy. And I stayed in that mode, and I just purged, right? I purged all my experiences, wrote them down. But then as we went into editing the book, that's when I started to deal with my own emotions for the stuff that I had gone through. And so editing the book was a lot harder, because I was going through those experiences. And frankly, Brandon, I thought about rereading the book before your interview today. And I was like, okay, am I in an emotional state where I can reread the whole book cover to cover? And actually, frankly, I decided I couldn't do it quite right now. So so it is a book that's I think it's a lot more personal than I think most books are to authors.
Yes. And have there, with the village core and all that, have there been any success stories that you know about of people being able to get this information from you guys and apply it to their lives successfully?
So since we are relaunching Village Core, I'm going to talk the success story for the book. I served on a board with a retired admiral, and he I gave him a copy of my book after I wrote it and it was published. He read it to cover, and he called me and he said, I need 8 more copies. I was thrilled. I was like, okay, wonderful. You're going to give it to your friends. And he says, no, I want these copies for my kids. So I had thought about, okay, I was writing this book for caregivers, but here's someone who is clearly a senior. He's buying it for his book, for his kids. I was wondering how he would use it. So I asked him and he said, okay, here's how I'm going to use it. The first copy is going to go to my daughter who's coming from Denver to help us come up with a plan for the rest of our lives. Okay. And he said, I've told her, I'm going to send you the book. Don't come to visit me until you're done reading it. Then when she came over, he told me that they went chapter by chapter and said, okay, have we come up with a plan for everything that this book talks about in this chapter? So once they would do that, they would move to the next chapter. So they went chapter by chapter to come up with their plan. Once the plan was done, he took a copy of my book and the plan and sent it to all his other kids and said, read the plan, read the book. If you have any questions, ask your mom or me right now, because once I'm done with this, your sister is making the decisions that we've come up with, and you're not going to second guess her. So I was really, really thrilled. I never anticipated the book to be used quite like that, and I was very thrilled that it was.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. And with the village core team and everybody who's on the board and everything, do you think their life stories and what they've gone through contribute to the goal and the mission of village core to help and provide for these families that are trying to receive this help?
Yeah, completely. I mean, each and every one of the board members has stories to tell. And even the people who are in the leadership team have stories to tell about taking care of their grandparents and such. And I think we come at this organization with a passion to really make a difference. And each and every person on the board is someone that I truly respect and admire, including you, Brandon. so, so I'm really, really thrilled for the team, and I know we can make a difference and we'll go far with it. So I'm thoroughly excited.
And do you think that these events that you host practically every day will, help teach seniors and help teach everybody about, what to expect next and, how to share their passions and continue on with their lives?
That's absolutely the point. So I think we are at the cusp of really blowing up all the events in Village Core. I mean, my vision would be the village that we started in Tier Santa started with one event, 2 events a week. And then we had a full calendar of events where if we had to do a new type of event, we had to really try to figure out a spot to put an event. And that's what I envision happening to our calendar very shortly, that it will be filled with all kinds of events and all kinds of experts coming and talking about these topics.
That sounds great. Well, we have just enough time for Q&As here. So if anybody in the chat would have any questions, let's get to them now. Let's see. If you could raise your hand, that would be great, so I can pick on you. All right, we have a question from Shah. Let's hear it.
Yeah, my question would be, where can we find your book?
Okay, thank you. It's on Amazon, and if you Google it with my name or the name of the book, Experience Caregiver's Journey, you will find it. You'll also find a link to it on our website under shopping.
That sounds good. All right, we got another question from Karen here. Let's hear it.
So I remember when my mom first, kind of slipping, so to speak, and I attended a support group, and they managed to scare the bejeebers out of me about what was coming down the road. So I'm wondering if you have suggestions either in the book or online for support groups that are helpful, that are constructive.
Yes. And yeah, I think I talk a little bit about that, but I think that will be one of our focuses on Village Core, is to create that type of a supportive environment and create support groups for people that can are like-minded or going through similar life experiences that can share. So thanks for that question, Karen.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Well, that is all the time that we have here today. Thank you so much, Yasmin, for this. It's very informative about, how your experiences and how that came together for your book and, for the mission of Village Core and all that. So thank you very much for being with me today.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
All right. So